Hello, everybody, and welcome along to the Event Industry News podcast with me, James Dickson. Wishing you all a very good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever or wherever you tune in to today's podcast from. I'm just back from my holidays. It was first day back at work yesterday. A long old slog doing some pre-production for Event Tech Live and Event Sustainability Live. So after a sort of full day looking at sort of production notes and sorting exhibitor manuals out yesterday, it's nice to be sort of back behind the microphone, a little bit of a departure from the sort of usual day job to record some episodes of the podcast today. And I'm delighted to be speaking with somebody this morning on the podcast who has built what looks to be a fair old reputation in what may be considered formative years of their career. Looking at the notes ahead today, it's somebody that I've not met until we just joined on the link a few minutes ago prior to this recording. So as always on the podcast, it's a great opportunity to get to know new people and find out what they're doing in the industry. I'm delighted to say that joining the Event Industry News podcast today from Exhibit 3Sixty is their commercial manager, Sam Pearce. Sam, welcome along to the podcast this morning.
Thank you, James. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to having some in-depth conversations and getting to know each other a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose a good place to start really is on Exhibit 360. Always good for context to let listeners and people tuning in know sort of, what the business does that somebody's working for. So give us a little bit of a background and an overview of exactly what Exhibit 360 provides to the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So Exhibit 360 have been around since 2008, founded by my dad, Andrew Pearce, and Alan Craner. They've done a splendid job sort of building up over the years. Their bread and butter was always stand building, but I'd say in the last 10 years, they've recently turned to full service shows and building feature areas. So they're now that full service turnkey contractor, electric, shell scheme, lighting, carpet, floor coverings, furniture, audiovisual, graphics, you name it, they do the full service. So we go up and down the country, whether it's the NEC, Excel, Olympia, Manchester, Liverpool, delivering some lovely bespoke feature areas and full service shows.
And that's, I mean, that transition, first of all, is a bold transition. Some may argue a difficult one, given the competitiveness of the trade show industry. Certainly, to move from being stand building into that full service contractor. Given some of the sort of the what we may consider to established names that are out there, and the sort of some of the the really big companies that work in the industry. It was one of the things we're going to talk about today is kind of I suppose the online ordering process and the streamlining of how
Mm.
easy it is now for people to actually order and achieve what they want to achieve at trade shows, particularly. Have some of the developments that you've made as a business in terms of that digital presence helped when you wanted to transition into that wider scale marketplace of providing full service?
Yeah, the transition had already sort of happened prior to my joining. And then the sort of innovation of our digital presence with our online ordering systems and the way that we sort of strategize shows now has certainly offered us an edge where we save plenty of time and we can throw ourselves at shows in a much more efficient manner than many companies can. But then it also offers us like this USP of what we can offer for you. So it's certainly helped with that transition. I think it's given 360 a nice edge.
Mm. Well, I spent the entire day yesterday looking at, an exhibitor building the back end of an exhibitor manual for Event Tech Live and Event Sustainability Live, and within that we've got online ordering. That there are so many sort of different facets now where we're trying to direct exhibitors, attendees, contractors, different digital elements that we're trying to incorporate within our operations. How has it worked for you guys? Because as I understand it, when you a couple of years ago, there was quite a big development that you were behind in terms of implementing, some new digital platforms and ordering processes within the business. Maybe we could talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to joining Exhibit 360, I had a background in graphic design, marketing, but most particularly web development.
Right.
Um, and I was never going to join Exhibit 360 until a role became present for me. And the first sort of role that was there was this idea to build these bespoke online ordering systems that help the exhibitor, help the organizer, but also help to integrate all of 360's ordering process. So the manual emails, raising paperwork, that all went out the window. We looked to develop an innovative solution where we gave the one-stop shop for all exhibitors, and everything was integrated and automated. Somebody logs on, they place an order, they've got the invoice, we've got the invoice, our accounting supplier's got the invoice. But also, to go one step further, we wanted to make something that would also help navigate their journey. We wanted to enhance the exhibitor experience, because without them, there wouldn't be shows. We need that sort of repeat business. We want them to rebook the organizer's show. So that's what I was brought on board to do. And yeah, we think we've been running it now for about 2 years. We're close on over 1,000 orders on them. So even though we use other fantastic ordering systems out there, we do often get to use our own. And yeah, we're well over 1,000 orders now. So they're definitely getting busy, and they're working well.
Do you think how valuable is it to an organizer that their exhibitors digital journey during the process of planning and executing their presence at a trade show is as streamlined and as easy as possible? Do you think it makes a genuine impact on the rebooking, on the resales?
Yeah, I think it's vital. If somebody is exhibiting for the first time and they have a horrible time, for example, if you went back to the sort of primitive days of emails, slow responses, dealing with out of hours, it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be stressful, especially if they don't know what they're doing. I often have to have one-to-one calls with exhibitors just for 5 minutes, just to explain things to them, which is absolutely okay. We've got the order system there for them to use, for them to learn it on their own. But if they don't, we have that time. So if every exhibitor didn't have that available to them, it's going to be really difficult for them to navigate the show for the first time. I feel like they're going to be put off for the second time. So it's all about sort of ensuring that organisers are going to get their rebooking rates that they need to grow their show and move into bigger halls, into bigger venues.
Absolutely. How does that sort of dovetail into the actual on-site operations then for you guys? Does was that in mind when this new sort of platform system, call it what you will, was developed and created? Does it change operationally what happens on site as well?
No, it doesn't change how we do things on site. On site has always been incredibly meticulous. Andy and Alan have got their procedures where they are, they dot the T's and they cross the I's. Take that back. They dot the I's and they cross the T's. They're very thorough, and that hasn't changed. We always go to site with a tremendous amount of paperwork for every single stand that there is. We always have it backed up on our laptops. We have everything we'd ever need, and that hasn't changed. Even though it's all automated, we still print everything out and we bring it to site. And we like to know exactly what's going on each stand. We like to know that Joe Blogs on stand 123 has ordered this. So when they come to the service desk with a query, we can actually greet them personally. So we've always been meticulous. I say I've been here for 18 months. Andy and Alan have always been meticulous, and that will never change regardless of the ordering system.
Mhm. What about the marketing of the business itself? Because that how we market and how we deliver our own communications to push our own businesses has changed dramatically. It's you can't underestimate really how much things have changed. When I think back 20 years ago now, I joined a media business in 2005 that was doing magazine publishing, B2B magazine publishing. And when I think that was, 19 years ago, and just the complete and utter change in landscape in less than 2 decades, is frightening really to think how we did things, in what is a relatively short period of time. In your own experience, coming in and sort of changing maybe or adapting some of the actual marketing communications for the business itself, how have you sort of developed that over the last 18 months or so?
Well, we've got a fantastic company that we use for all our marketing. We sub it out of house to a brilliant company called Vivid Inc., run by Paul Richardson. And it's great. They're so easy to get along with. They're such a joy to work with. And I feel, I'm talking to friends as opposed to colleagues. They may feel that we're a client and they work for us, but it certainly doesn't feel that way for us.
Mm.
And they're incredibly proactive. They're on the ball. Before I can even sit at my desk, I'm going to have a load of emails from them, which sometimes they probably understand that I, give it a few days to reply, but they're so on the ball. We have Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 campaigns. We have monthly meetings where about 2 hours we go through everything. We discuss plans, we discuss our branded marketing, our paid campaigns, we discuss the demographic we want to hit, the overall ideology that we want to create about Exhibit 360, how we want to present ourselves and our brand image. And we regularly go through this. And prior to me joining, this was Andy and Alan's responsibility. And 2022 was their biggest year. So they didn't have much time for Vivid Ink, sadly for them. So they were kind of on their own with it. So with me coming on and they could sort of delegate that responsibility to me, I was able
Mm.
to sort of be their point of contact for all things discussion. And with a background in marketing at a previous company, I could give them, somewhat of an idea of what I wanted and what the company wanted, and I could communicate with them well rather than sort of guessing, can we do this, can we do that? I kind of understand their industry a little bit, so we have some real good grounded discussions where we understand each other's needs and goals, and they're just absolutely brilliant. They look after us really well.
It's good to hear. But I suppose you touch on something that is maybe even more valuable in the wider events industry, which is the subject of relationships. Something we've talked about loads on the podcast before is the supplier relationships, client relationships. Um, being able to communicate effectively with people, regardless of how good our sort of digital platforms are and our online ordering processes, being able to communicate well and effectively with people and build relationships will remain fundamental regardless of how big or deep our technology becomes within the industry. As somebody who's sort of been relatively, I hope it's fair to say, new to the events industry,
Yeah,
having been with the
absolutely.
company
Yeah.
for 18 months, have you sort of witnessed as somebody stepping into the industry the relationship building process and how you see relationships working on site? What your sort of takeaways from that?
Well, I've got three fantastic role models of the company: Andy, Alan, and then Matthew Williams, our director of logistics. And all three of them are, what you call company veterans. So I walk on site, I'm still 18 months, 2 years in, and sometimes don't know my place. Sometimes everything's a bit new to me, but they know everyone. And more importantly, they value their clients. That is their number one thesis. It's all about the relationship with their client. And it's so admirable to see that all of them value them so much. They would never, ever sacrifice their standards for their client. It's all about giving them what they want at the drop of the hat. And obviously, they don't want to go too far with that, but they absolutely value the client 100%. It's
Mm.
all about looking after them and giving them that personal touch. And sometimes on site they get hugs from clients. Sometimes, the it's like they're bumping into an old friend that they've known for 20 years, but it's something they see once a year on the show. So understanding how vital relationships are in the industry is, yeah, it's quite mind blowing. But hopefully in years to come I'll develop some of my own.
Mm. I suppose I'm diving down a bit of a rabbit hole here with the opportunity to speak to somebody who is, you know, working at a high level in the industry, but who has only themselves been in the industry for a relatively short period of time. So it's for me, it's potentially a good opportunity to get somebody's perspective who is still relatively new to it. But venues is another one, with the industry that always causes a lot of discussion. There's always talking points around venues, sort of good and bad, and again, what's your takeaways from that? I guess even in 18 months, you probably had experience of working pretty much in every major, exhibition and event space around the country.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I'm probably, although I will give my opinion, I'm probably the last person that has anything to say about venues or what they are. I'm still so new to the industry. I don't have, I've got the tip of the iceberg on what they do, whereas the people in the industry have been around for years. They know them inside and out. I think
Mm.
they're obviously what I would see as the top of the food chain. They've got the monopoly, and then the organisers go to them, and then they go to the contractors. I've always had great experiences with venues. I've always found the staff to be really helpful. It's just sometimes it can be tricky with raising electrical prices, but that's part of the game. Prices go
Mm.
up, wages go up, costs go up, so prices go up. So there's no real comment on me there for venues where I don't think I've got a particularly great input on it. But so far, my experience with them has been great. My favourite venue is probably Manchester Central.
Oh,
But
okay,
I'll
yeah.
say that definitely, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, I know the venue. I know a lot of the venues in around Manchester. I live over in South Yorkshire, so it's not a million miles away from me. And
Mm.
I've always had sort of a great affection with the sort of the events world in Manchester. It's such a sort of thriving community of all sorts of different events. Live music, business events. Consumer shows. There's such a sort of a broad spectrum of stuff happening in there, and some really really great businesses that work in and around the sort of the greater Manchester area that work within. That do a lot of their work just in that area because there is so much business to be had. It is, yeah. It's a great location. One thing that sprang out to me, Paul Richardson, you mentioned from Vivid Ink, was kind enough to send through sort of a few, discussion points, talking points, ideas for today's recording, and use this term ergonomic ordering to be used as a tool. I was just curious to sort of maybe pick your brains a little bit on what ergonomic ordering actually is and how it can help organizers. What does the term broadly speaking mean?
Well, yeah, we had an invention system where we focused on total ergonomics, so the ease of use for exhibitors. If you went back to the traditional order forms, which weren't around too long ago, where it's pretty much an Excel spreadsheet, a description of what you need, ticking a box. Coming from a background of marketing myself and design, I understand that designers and marketers, we communicate via visuals. So exhibitors are always predominantly going to be a marketing team or a sales team. So
Hmm.
they're always going to be communicating via visuals anyway. That's what they understand. And we are obviously on the operational side of that, or I'm on the operational side of it now, where we used to have these primitive order forms where it was just a description. Somebody say, well, what is that? What is that? So we developed a solution where we'd have an online ordering system and it'd have photos, and we'd go, right, okay, so they can see what they're ordering. But then we kind of looked at ourselves and said, how can we actually go and take this one step further? We were obviously analyzing and reviewing the ordering systems that we developed as we went along. They were always in a sort of trial basis, and we always found that were still confused, and naturally so, because they don't know what two spotlights on a track may mean, or they don't know what a 500-watt socket may mean. So we try to sort of get a concept going where we communicated this as best as possible. And I felt the way to do that was visually. So we went around and we did a bit of R&D. We looked at other industries, particularly other industries that were in construction, but perhaps something slightly different to exhibitions, such as interior design, maybe, and how
Oh,
they
okay, yeah.
promoted their products and their visuals. And there was a lot of 3D visuals going on. A great example is Ikea. Ikea on their website, I've got the kitchen builder, and it's
Oh, of
just so
course,
brilliant. They've
yeah.
got this model where somebody who's buying a kitchen for the house and they have no idea, and this would be somebody like myself, I've never fitted a kitchen in my house or had one done. Um, I've got no idea, but they've got this builder and you understand it more and more. So we took that away and we said, right, okay, how can we build 3D visuals? How can we do this to help communicate to exhibitors? And that was the task I had, to figure out how to develop that and bring it in, and we did that. So now for every show, there's a 3D visual of what their stand will look like. They can zoom in, drag it around, and then there's also another 3D visual of how they can upgrade. So they get 3D visual of a stand, a shell scheme stand that's got graphics on it, audio visual, furniture, branded furniture, additional lighting. Again, you can drag it around, zoom in, and all of them have got hotspot links where if you just click on the TV, you're taken straight to the audio-visual ordering system. And we wanted to make that, transparent. We wanted to make it as easy as possible for exhibitors. Just so, yeah, it felt ergonomic. It felt easy to use. That exhibitor experience was easy to navigate, and hopefully they'll come back again next year and they enjoy it.
Yeah, and there's ease of navigation, the wow factor that people get from that. But we perhaps shouldn't shy away from the fact, that we're in business to do business. And this might sound like a really sort of weird analogy, but bear with me. I was sat on the sofa last night watching some TV with an iPad, and I did our Tesco shopping order for the family.
Yeah,
It's so easy now that the big supermarkets, you go on the app, I'm on an iPad, scroll through, I'm selecting items, I select a certain item, but before I checked visually, everything looks great. The photography and the photos of each item, they're clear. You can see exactly what it is you're buying. The descriptions are good, but then, you know, you it's clever little things that pop up towards the end. You've ordered this. Do you also want that? Okay. And I added sort of about half a dozen extra things in right at the end because the app suggested, well, you've ordered this. Why don't you order that? And the whole process took about 10 minutes and a couple of clicks a button. And I think, it, in some respects, it might sound ridiculous to say that my Tesco shop is similar to the exhibition ordering process, but from what I'm taking away from what you just said, that whole sort of idea of ease of use and being able to really picture what it is that you're actually getting, but then also perhaps take opportunities to upsell by offering them visual representations of what something could look like if they upgraded to a couple of other bits and pieces. Commercially, that's got to be good, as well as, making the process for the exhibitor much more sort of friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's great for us if we can upsell, and that was one of the reasons we put the visual in there. But the other reason was that exhibitors don't actually know what they can get if it's their first time. They don't
Yeah.
understand what graphics are. They don't understand that they could have had a TV, so they can turn up on site. They could have paid thousands for their shell scheme space, and then they look around and think, "Oh God, we've really missed the trick here."
Mm.
So we just wanted to make sure that that was as transparent as possible for them. They can have all of this. They can have all the singing and dancing. If they don't want, that's absolutely okay. So certainly it's about communicating that to them. Then also the benefit to us is that hopefully we can upsell some more extras for the stand.
Yeah. You mentioned, the 3D visuals and IKEA and, sort of furniture sales and things like that. A lot of those sort of websites as well now are using this great augmented reality technology, where you can pick a piece of furniture and then hold your phone up to your room, and it will actually sort of place that furniture in there and show you what it's going to look like in real time. Yeah, have you any experience of sort of using the sort of the augmented reality and the AI side of things? Is it something that's on your radar and you think could be utilised in a similar sort of way?
Yes, yes. It's funny that you say that we have developed it. We've got it. We are yet to announce it or how we position it to sell
Mhm.
ourselves and the USP of it. But we've got it. We've developed it within our ordering system. So again, exhibitors can take their stand on their phone or tablet. They can present it onto a large space, and they can see that stand anywhere from 1% to 100% scale. So I think that we're actually probably the first company in the industry that may have done this, even though we're yet to announce it. But it's fantastic. You have the phone on your you have the stand on your camera. You can walk around it. You can see everything contextualized at 100% scale. Have you got too much furniture? Is that
Wow.
TV too big? Is that counter too big? And think the goal really is to just take this a step further potentially and maybe pitch it to organisers for how they see their feature areas. The amount of revisions we go through feature areas. Our head of design, Steve Crumpton, who does visual after visual, it's such a huge process of organising shows, getting the feature areas spot on. And to be able to say to somebody, we can get this for you on phone screen so you can view it in AR at 100% scale and walk around your feature area before you've paid any money is something that we're hoping to position as a great, sort of great USP for Exhibit 360. Of course, obviously, feature areas can be 100 square meters, 200 square meters. They can zoom it right down to 1% and pop it on their desk, and they could just look over it in a bird's eye, walk through it with their phone. So we've touched on it, we've developed it, it's there. We're just sort of figuring out how we present that, as a USP to Exhibit 360 as a service we provide.
And what some of the things you've said there will resonate with people listening. I'm absolutely certain of it. You go through the planning process. You look at your floor plans. You look at the square meterage. But you're a lot of the time you're looking at everything in two dimensions. You're looking at plan views of venues. You're looking at basic distances, height, width and depth, and what you think is going to fit in a space. Often you'll get, and I don't know how many times you turn up on site and adjustments have to be made because, oh right, we didn't realize that there was an air conditioning duct there because that's not on the venue drawing, or something has to be adjusted on site, or an exhibitor will turn up and the furniture that they thought would fit perfectly into their 3x3 or their 6x4 stand actually doesn't quite look right. I mean, in that couple of minutes of explaining there, you've said so much that probably will resonate with people. And I dare say that technology like that is going to transform, you know not just how good and how well the stands are presented, but even things like logistics. If you think about how much stuff may be taken by exhibitors that they get to site and go, oh well, we thought we'd have space for this and actually we don't, and it's got to go back. What may seem like a gimmick can actually have so many sort of positive impacts, I think, on wider operations.
Yeah, absolutely. It will definitely help with people gauging, especially for the first time, the size and scale of what they're ordering. Furniture you mentioned was a big one. I had a stand not too long ago in June, and they wanted as much furniture as they possibly had. And then when we got to site and I handed over to the client, Um, Lovely lady. She kind of looked at me. She went, well, "There's a lot of furniture, isn't there? I don't know if it all fits." And we made it all fit, but having that tool at the disposal to offer exhibitors, I think, will be a great asset, and especially organisers with their feature areas, just because they're so important to the show, and to see it at scale before they pay any money is quite a yeah. We're quite pleased with that.
No, absolutely, and keep us in the loop with that. If that's something that further down the line, you want to flag up, and we'd love to sort of talk in a bit more detail about that. We've obviously got a huge vested interest in event technology with the Event Tech Live show that we run through Event Industry News, and developments like that. Very much at the forefront of this particular area of the events industry, and it won't just be in trade shows either. I dare say that applications like that will have wider uses in other areas, in festivals, live music events, anywhere where you're wanting to build something on a temporary basis and you want to see really clearly what it's going to look like. That sort of technology is clearly going to have a massive impact. So please do, keep us in the loop with that. We'd love to know more about it.
Absolutely.
And in terms of other developments, what does the rest of the year look like for you guys?
It's busy. The calendar's getting booked up. There's no tech developments that we're looking to introduce or develop or evolve as of yet. We're focusing on um, looking after our clients and our shows and just delivering to the best man possible. So, yeah, as you know, we have a quiet season. We've all had our holidays. We're coming back now. We've got some exciting shows coming up. We've got some brilliant clients, some wonderful stands, and we're just going to focus on delivering them as best as possible before we again quieten down for Christmas. I can't believe Christmas is on the tongue already, but it's nearly round here, and then yeah, we'll look to 2025 and hopefully another busy year again for us.
Yeah, last time I checked, it was the 2nd of January. I remember having New
Yeah.
Year's Day, and I went back to work literally at like 7:30 a.m. on the 2nd of January into a project, and that kind of felt that the last time I blinked. I don't know whether that's sort of indicative of everybody's year out there at the moment, but for me personally, I know people say, "Oh, the year's flown past," but this one in particular just seems to have just been a non-stop roller coaster, and you know I'm a freelancer, so I work on a not a huge scale in terms of projects. A lot of the stuff that I do on my own under my own steam are fairly sort of small conferences and business events and things like that. But it just seems to have gone crazy this year for me, and I don't know if that's the same, at the sort of the higher end where you guys are working.
I definitely find that working, because I've worked in an industry before the events industry, and I find that the year just flies by in the events industry, and it's just because there's so many deadlines. Everything is to a deadline. You've got to show, you've got to submit electrical plans, you've got to order electrics, you've got to submit your RAMs, you've got to book your hotels, and you're always thinking about a date for a show. Let's say the show is September 24th. Well, I know that I've actually probably got to do my electrics now, and these deadlines and these milestones in our heads, I just find that it takes the year from under your feet. It goes by so quick, but thankfully I enjoy it, so I don't mind it too much. Although I don't want to be too old just yet. So I've got a feeling,
You
yeah,
got plenty of time for that. One thing that we've not
hopefully.
touched on just before we wrap up today, Sam, is you were nominated for the SA Young Person of the Year Award 2023. What did it sort of feel like, having been in the industry in a fairly short period of time to sort of achieve that kind of recognition?
It felt really good until I thought that there was a chance they could read my name out, and then I felt really sick about getting on stage. Um, But yeah, it felt great. Again, Vivid Ink, they look after all of our award submissions, and they write down these incredible submissions and entries. So I have a lot of them to thank for it. But I was chuffed. We went for this award, and there's a bit of a maybe a nudge to try and I want to try and get myself out there in the industry. So I thought, well, I don't know if I want to go for an award. Is that a little bit vain? Going for an award at 22 at the time. But we Vivid kind of put together an entry, and it was all true, obviously. I kind of went back and thought, that actually made me sound really good here. It looks like I've done a lot in my short time in the industry. At that point, it was only 10 months in. And it's sort of snowballing, and it's growing exponentially with the amount of responsibility that I'm luckily trusted with. So I was delighted. I was delighted to be nominated. Didn't come home with the gold. Went to another very well deserved person. But I don't know if I'll be going back for it. I think once I'm done, go again twice, and it's looking a little bit desperate. So I'll take my nomination gladly, and I'll proudly move on.
Well done on it. Congratulations, and congratulations on what sounds like, not just a promising start, but a really sort of positive and inspiring start to life in the events industry. To step in and make not just changes, but assist in developing, an already well established business in what looks like to have been a really positive direction. It's okay to be a bit self-effacing sometimes and say no, it's a team effort, but I think it's also important that recognition is given where it's due. So yeah, congratulations on the ongoing success, Sam. It's been great to speak to you today.
Thanks, James. It's been a joy. Thank you very much.
Before we wrap up, if anybody wants to find out a little bit more about you guys, Exhibit 360, where are you based, how do they find you, website presumably pretty easy?
Yeah, well, we're based in Coventry, right by the NEC, realistically. If anybody wants to find us, they can go to our website, which is exhibit360.co.uk. It's the number 3, but the word 60, which always confuses people over the phone. You can always drop any inquiries you have to our sales email address, sales@exhibit360.co.uk. But if you want to talk to any of us, we'll always pick up the phone on 02476 473 663, and we'll be delighted to speak to anyone.
Fabulous. Thanks very much. And a couple of little mentions just for a few bits that we've got going on as well before we wrap up today. Of course, if you are listening to today's podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from, please do make sure that you're subscribed so that you get all the regular updates whenever the podcast drops. But more importantly, please do also head over to eventindustrynews.com to check out the latest news, features, special supplements, all that good stuff that's on eventindustrynews.com, where you can also watch video versions of all of our podcasts. You will also find on there the A to Z supplier directory. If you work within the events industry in whatever vertical that may be within our wider events industry, and you're looking for a supplier or service, the chances are you'll find it over on the A to Z supplier directory at eventindustrynews.com. Of course, you may have started your journey there today, and that's where you go to watch our podcasts whenever they drop via the website. Of course, don't forget to also go in that opposite direction and make sure that you subscribe to them wherever you get your audio podcasts from. Loads of places to hear and tune in and watch the podcast each week. Thanks very much again to my guest, Sam Pearce, the commercial manager over at Exhibit 360. Sam, enjoy the rest of your week and the rest of your day. It's been great to speak to you, and please do stay in touch. And we'll see everybody on the next edition of the Event Industry News podcast. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.